Many dreams have died because someone was waiting to be ready? How many brilliant ideas, inventions, songs, books, businesses buried? Not because they were bad, but because someone was afraid to start before. They were great. Not because the dream was impossible, not because the idea wasn't good enough, but because someone believed they weren't good enough yet. How many brilliant books never left the laptop? How many game-changing inventions stayed locked inside a notebook drawer? How many songs died on the lips of someone too afraid to hit record? Let me introduce you to the enemy. Not fear, not failure, but hesitation. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said, "You could be good today, instead you choose tomorrow." It's one of the most brutal truths of the human condition. We trade the fire of now for the illusion of someday. Take Emily Dickinson, one of the greatest poets in history. She wrote nearly 800 poems, but during her lifetime, she published less than a dozen. Why? She didn't think she was ready, didn't think her words were worthy enough. And the world nearly lost a literary giant because of that quiet war between brilliance and self-doubt. Or take James Dyson. He built 5,126 failed prototypes before finally inventing the vacuum that made him a billionaire.
Think about that.
5,126 times he wasn't ready. 5,126 chances to quit. But instead of waiting for greatness, he created it. Through failure, through grit, through relentless beginning. The perfectionist trap. The mind is built to avoid pain, not to achieve greatness. And to the brain, nothing is more painful than public failure. So, what does it do? It convinces you to wait. It says, you need one more course. Iman, you need a better camera. You need to feel more confident. You'll do it when you're less busy, less tired, more sure. But here's the Stoic truth. The obstacle is the way. The discomfort you're trying to avoid, that's your signpost. The fear, that's the entrance to your real life. The doubt, that means you're standing at the beginning of your purpose. Waiting to be ready isn't harmless. It's how greatness dies silently before it ever gets a chance to take its first breath. So if you think you're not good enough, you're probably not. Yet is where the power lives. Because you don't have to be great to start. But if you never start, you'll never be great. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Perfection is a lie. The perfect time doesn't exist. The perfect version of you doesn't exist. And greatness? The Stoics had a word for this trap, prohairesis, the idea that what matters is not what happens outside of us, but how we choose to respond. And perfection? It's an illusion we chase so we don't have to risk being judged for who we really are. Here's what your mind is really doing. If your work is never done, if your voice is never ready, if your idea is never perfect, then guess what? You never have to show it. And if you never show it, no one can reject it. Perfection is procrastination wearing a tuxedo. It pretends to be noble, but it's just fear, dressed up in ambition. Studies in psychology show that perfectionism is often rooted in a fear of shame, not a desire for excellence. We tell ourselves, I don't want to post this yet. It's not ready. What we really mean is, I'm not ready to feel like I'm not enough. But Stoic thinkers, Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, they had an answer for this. Wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus, that's the price of growth. Not applause, not success, but the willingness to look dumb while you get better. Let's talk about Leonardo da Vinci, the man who painted the Mona Lisa, a painting so iconic, we still talk about her smile 500 years later. You know how long he worked on it? Over 16 years. Not because he was lazy, not because he lacked talent, but because he was obsessed with perfection. He died with thousands of unfinished pages, half-built inventions, fragmented ideas. Brilliance, yes, but even Leonardo couldn't escape the paralysis of perfectionism. You know what the first tweet in history was? Just setting up my WTR. No punctuation, no polish, no strategy. That was it. From a company that became a global force, they didn't wait for perfect branding. They didn't spend years over designing. They just started me raw, awkward, real. Perfection tells you to wait. Stoicism tells you to act. Psychology tells you to risk. Reality tells you only what's finished can change the world. Don't become great by being flawless. That's not how greatness works. Greatness isn't a reward for perfection. It's the scar tissue of failure, stitched together by persistence. You become great by being consistent, You don't need a masterpiece. You need a start. We look at the statue of David and see genius. But what most people don't know is that marble block, it was rejected. Two other sculptors gave up on it. They said it was too damaged, too flawed, too narrow. For 40 years, it sat untouched. Then Michelangelo came along, and he didn't see a flaw. He saw a figure trapped inside the stone. He didn't wait for a perfect block. He started anyway, and made the most iconic sculpture in history. Greatness isn't about perfect material. It's about the courage to chisel anyway. The flaw of perfectionism. Psychologists call it perfection paralysis. It's when the fear of doing something imperfectly stops you from doing it at all. You tell yourself, if it can't be perfect, why try? If I can't win, I won't play. But that's not protection. That's self-sabotage disguised as strategy. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. He didn't say be flawless. He said, do what you have to do. That's the Stoic way. Progress over perfection. Discipline over drama. Work over waiting. You don't become great by being perfect. You become great by becoming unbreakable in the face of imperfection. Did you know the Nintendo Entertainment System, the very console that changed gaming forever, was born from a failed arcade machine? Back in the early 80s, Nintendo released a game called Radar Scope. It flopped. Badly. Had warehouses filled with unsold machines. So they did something radical. They retrofitted those failures. They rewired them, reimagined them, rebranded them with a new game, Donkey Kong. That's where Mario was born. From failure came a franchise. From reworking brokenness came a billion-dollar legacy. Before Harry Potter became a phenomenon, J.K. Rowling was a single mom on welfare. She wrote in cafes with her baby asleep beside her. And her manuscript, it was rejected by 12 publishers. Not because it wasn't good, but because the industry didn't believe in wizard stories from unknown authors. But she kept going. She didn't need it to be perfect. She needed it to be finished. And when it was, it changed lives. So stop polishing your idea in secret until it's flawless. Stop editing your dreams until they're sterile. Greatness doesn't show up when everything is perfect. It shows up when you do, battered, scared, unpolished, and unwilling to quit. Because you don't become great by being flawless. You become great by refusing to stay broken. Greatness isn't where you begin, it's what you build. Let me say it again, slowly. Greatness isn't where you begin, it's what you build. You don't arrive at excellence. You crawl to it through rejection, ridicule, repetition, and resilience. Stoic philosophers never measured greatness by achievements or fame. Epictetus, once a slave, once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, greatness isn't a gift, it's a discipline. It's not talent you're waiting on, it's action you're avoiding. You don't need status to be great. You need self-mastery. Do you drink Starbucks? Do you know it began as a tiny coffee shop selling coffee beans, not drinks? Howard Schultz, the man behind Starbucks as we know it, didn't come from wealth. He grew up in the housing projects of Brooklyn. One of his earliest memories was watching his father get injured on the job with no health care, no security. And he swore he'd build something better, not just for himself, but for others. He didn't start with connections. He didn't start with a business empire. He started with a vision and no money. When he pitched the idea of coffee shops to investors, 217 of them said no, 217 rejections, and still he kept showing up. Because Schultz understood, you don't build greatness by waiting for approval, you build it by showing up after rejection. Vincent van Gogh, considered one of the greatest painters of all time. Do you know how many paintings he sold while he was alive? One. He created over 2,000 works of art, but only sold one before he died, broke, alone, and misunderstood. He wasn't celebrated, he wasn't validated. He simply could not stop creating. Because to him, greatness wasn't the result of fame. It was the act of devotion. MrBeast, now one of the biggest YouTubers in the world, started making videos on a crappy laptop in his bedroom. His first uploads? Terrible. But he kept going. Now he's changing lives, feeding millions, and running a media empire. None of these people started great. They started scared, broke, clueless, messy. So what's your excuse? Not confident enough? You're not talented enough? You don't have the gear, the followers, the money? Good. There's a concept in psychology called the arrival fallacy. It's the false belief that once you achieve something, you'll finally feel fulfilled. Finally feel worthy. Finally feel great. But you don't become great at the finish line. You become great on the track. Panting, sweating, falling, limping. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And one of the biggest ways we waste our life is by sitting still, waiting to be great enough to begin. Greatness is built in the dark, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when no one's validating you. It's built in the gym when you show up with sore muscles. It's built on YouTube when you post that video with 3 views and 0 comments. It's built when you start writing, knowing no one may read it, but you write anyway. Because every master was once invisible. Every hero was once unsure. Every great thing you admire was once unfinished and unremarkable. So let me tell you again, and this time, hear it not just with your ears, but with your life. Greatness isn't where you begin. It's what you build, step by uncertain step. Messy, scared, ordinary, but consistent. And over time, ordinary becomes unstoppable. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. You grow because you start before you're ready. If you wait until you're good enough, you'll wait forever. Look at every baby, every single one. They fall hundreds of times before they learn to walk. But not once do they say, "Oh no, this walking thing is too hard. I guess I'll just crawl forever." But adults, we fail once and we're ready to quit. We hear one no and we start questioning our entire purpose. That's backwards. Failure is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you've started. And if you started, you're already ahead of 90% of people who are still planning. Let's bring this even closer to home. Do you know the average gym membership only gets used for less than 3 months? People join, buy all the clothes, post a picture, and then quit.
Why?
Because they thought results would show before the effort.
But that's not how it works.
The before and after pictures you see online, you don't see the days they didn't want to go, the nights they cried, the mornings they dragged themselves out of bed. You just see the end, and that's what's messing you up. You're comparing your day 1 to someone's year 10, so you think you're not good enough. But the truth is, you're just not early enough in the game. Look, the first draft of anything will suck. Your first business will have flaws. Your first YouTube video might get 3 views, and one of them will be your mom. But that's normal. That's not failure. That's the cost of greatness. Let me say that again. Struggling at the start is the price tag of being amazing later. So here's what I need you to do. Stop watching other people's highlights. Stop waiting for the stars to align. Stop hiding behind research and someday. You don't have to be great to start. But if you never start, you'll never be great. So now the question isn't, am I ready? The question is, am I willing to begin while I'm still becoming? Because greatness isn't some divine gift handed to a chosen few. It's the side effect of persistence. It's the reward for showing up when no one's clapping. It's what happens when you keep building while others are still waiting. Every legend you admire was once a beginner. Every expert was once a disaster. Every success story started with a shaky first step. And maybe today, it's your turn. Your turn to write that first page. To record that cringe first video, to take that awkward first pitch, to launch before you're sure, to be terrible, so that one day you can be unstoppable. So if you're scared, good. If you feel unprepared, even better. That means you're alive. It means you care. And it means it's time. Because you don't have to be great to start. But if you don't start, you'll never be great. Start now. Before you're ready, before you're perfect, before the dream dies in the waiting, start.